Hello, welcome to Staring Into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach. With me, as always, is Matt Wildasin.
What? I was gonna come up with a thing for the story, but
I was too, but I decided we probably shouldn't. Um, and coming in all the way from Iceland is Vitlame Mist.
I'm still stuck in this apartment, guys. I don't really know how to get there. But hey, I'm here.
And special returning guest and author of The Vast, Matt Wildasin.
Hi, everybody. I want to say it's been, has it been about a year now since I've been? Well, no, because I was here in October. So since last October till now, I really appreciate your WWE style of introductions you started doing.
Oh yeah!
It's just like, it's Matt Brandenburg. And then we're
honestly, it's all about having a good time here.
We've been practicing. We're gonna bust into
absolutely
whatever wrestling thing is happening.
In all honesty, and this is even to our audience, we don't pre-prepare these intros. It's all just off the top of our heads. This whole thing is just random every time. We have no plan.
I
if you couldn't tell,
the one I got. I'm loving the energy of the intro this time with.
Oh, thank you.
I love it.
I kind of want to offset the energy from the material of this great book that we're promoting and talking about with you today, which is The Vast. And why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and tell the audience about the book?
Now, I want to preface all this because you did say, trying to offset the nature that's going to go with the book we're going to be talking about here.
Yes.
I also had thought about this, maybe I should throw this out there that if we want to talk about this very sad book, but in a funny way, maybe it won't hit people so hard.
Well, here's the thing. I think once we get more into the book, the conversation will slowly turn more serious.
Yeah.
You're front loaded with the humor, and then you get them with the darkness as they're drawn in.
True. I am. I would still consider myself a very early writer to the scene because I think I'm creeping up on my 6th year of doing this now. But in those 6 years, I have produced 15 books now, and a lot of them sorry, go ahead.
I was just it's impressive when you lay it out like that.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I should be doing more, but I.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Most of my books.
Please do not say that. Come on.
I do now. Okay. My books that I wrote many of, they all focus around psychological horror, cosmic horror, and I'm starting to dip my toes into wanting to write my own Goosebumps series. It's going to be called The Willies. Hopefully that'll come around in 2025 summer.
That's exciting.
I can't wait for that.
Well, I mean, I can write it. It just depends if, the publisher ends up publishing it. That's about all.
Yeah.
That's the game we all play, gentlemen and lady.
Yeah. So true. So
But
true.
I think it is a good idea to get more middle grade horror stuff out there. Because I have a lot of fond memories of Goosebumps when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I leaned more on the scary story side of things as we covered in that one. I think that was my first episode where we talked about the scary stories anthology.
I think that was your first episode.
Goosebumps was also there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was when we started the tradition of only having me on in October.
Yeah.
Yes, which we did end up breaking that tradition.
Yes,
but
this would be the third time we broke that tradition.
Yeah.
If you broke it 3 times, is it really a tradition at that point then? Yeah.
That's true.
It's just a tradition to
Well,
break.
now we have a new tradition of breaking the old tradition.
Yeah,
That's true.
exactly.
Well, before we get into the vast, should we go over our media consumption and recommendations from the last week or so?
Yes.
So I went to the
Sure.
movies last night, and I saw In a Violent Nature.
Oh, how was that?
I'll preface it by saying it was an experience, and I will say I personally really enjoyed the experience, but I understand the people who hate this movie.
Yeah.
Those who don't know, the best way I could describe In a Violent Nature is it's kind of like an ASMR slasher movie.
Okay.
No, I'm not even joking. Literally, this is the most peaceful slasher movie I've ever seen in my life. The movie opens, and it just kind of opens on a building, and you see a locket, and you hear these bratty teenagers, early 20-somethings, talking and making jokes. And then one of them takes something from this building little locket, and it awakens our slasher villain of the movie, whose name is Johnny. And the movie just follows Johnny. We don't see the plot. We don't see what the characters are doing off camera. It's just slow shots of Johnny walking through the woods. You hear the leaves and twigs crunching beneath his feet. You hear all the forest sounds. You see the beautiful forest scenery as Johnny's walking, trying to get this locket back and killing everyone who gets in his way.
Awesome. I like that.
It is fucking brutal when the killings happen, though. There's one kill in the movie that's dubbed the yoga kill that people are going to be talking about for a long time after this movie's done.
The yoga kill?
Yes. There's also one kill involving a machine where you pull the lever and the machine drops an axe to cut through wood. There's a kill using one of those machines that's gnarly as well. But all this violence is surrounded by this peaceful, serene nature with all the forest sounds and the leaves crunching. So you get kind of this peaceful ASMR vibe that's kind of juxtaposed with the brutal violence of a slasher movie.
Wait, question here, because I am, as much as I like to pretend that I'm an intellectual because I write books, I'm also really stupid. Is this the one that it looks like it's a Friday the 13th movie?
Yes.
Okay. I would never have guessed it would have been this ASMR style horror film. Now I kind of want to see it even more now.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, it's quite a surreal experience. I will say the movie's slow, and by slow I mean it's slow. It's an hour and 32 minutes, and you feel every second of that hour and 32 minutes. So just know going into the movie, if you've seen trailers, the movie advertises it to be kind of a bit more shocking or a bit more intense than it really is, where the movie has those intense scenes, but it's more focused on just the peaceful, serene nature side of everything.
Well,
Okay.
and I'm digging that concept because you always kind of at least I did. You always kind of wonder what Michael Myers is doing or Jason is doing in between, when we're not seeing him, and it's especially
Matt, you need to get a fucking head right now, because as soon as talking about this, I started thinking the Halloween franchise right away. I was so what we need to do now, we need to do a slight rip off like this did. We'll call it Devil's Night, so it'll be the day before Halloween.
Yeah.
And all it is you hear people getting costumes together, and you hear people sharpening knives and stuff, and then every now and then there's just a brutal killing in there.
Yeah.
It pulls
What?
back and it's into the ants.
I think that'd be awesome because, like, especially when you watch the first Halloween, there and it's super scary and there's all this stuff happening, but then there's like, then you gotta wonder, like, did he carve a pumpkin? Did he go and find a bed sheet to cut holes in to put on his head? Like all this stuff that all these cool set pieces, and you're kind of like, yeah, but did he actually take the time to do this? And then like, why?
There's one part in this movie that like I thought was hilarious, and this is just a slight spoiler, but one of the characters dies. He gets pretty much his head cut in half from the jaw. So like there's the upper half of the head and then the jaw and the body connected. And he's just walking through the woods, dragging the body with one hand and holding the head in the other hand. He goes to a ranger station and just throws the head through a window to unlock the door. And then he goes to like this cabinet where there's like those old school scary firefighter helmets and like drag chains. It just throws the body into the cabinet to break the glass there.
I mean, to be fair, that's very Jason style because he loved throwing bodies through windows in those movies. So
yes, he did.
But like, it was honestly hilarious. Like, it was like everyone in the theater was dying during that whole scene. But yeah, I will say this: the movie is definitely an experience, and people kind of comparing it to Skinamarink, and I personally wouldn't, but I understand why. Mostly because they're both kind of slower and more experimental. Mm-hmm. But I will say this one I just found to be extremely interesting with just what the movie's trying to suggest with all the nature stuff. And plus, the yoga kill is not one I'm going to forget anytime soon. So thank you for that image. Because goddamn, that was brutal.
You brought up Skinamarink.
Yes.
And that movie's been kind of a thorn in my side since it came out. Because, I mean, like, we reviewed it for Grindcast, and we've had some people tell us, like, oh, you're 100% wrong. And I'm like, look, everything's subjective. You know? Like, we're all going to see things in a different light. For me, if I'm going in to see a movie, and 95% of that movie is just a camera shoved into the corners of the room, and all I'm seeing is like the weird architecture from like 5% of the room, and it's just dark, and kids are whispering. I'm just hearing disembodied voices that's not the whole time. Yeah, like that's not a movie. A movie's supposed to show me things. Like,
yeah,
I don't.
It's an anti-movie.
And just like see, like I took like some film classes before, and it's just like, you know, when I remember one of the major things in them being is like, you have to make sure, like, from a cinematography standpoint, framing is extremely important. So like I'm having that in the back of my head, and then it's just like this camera's just like looking into the fibers of a carpet while you see like the light from a bathroom like a mile away, and it's like perfect framing. Just it's right there.
Oh my god, it's so true.
But I will say this: I think the idea behind Skinamarink is interesting. I just don't think it's a good. I just don't think it's a movie or even a good movie. No.
And that's where like when we were watching it for our podcast, I was squirming in my seat. Yeah, I was squirming in my seat because I'm like, I want to actually know more of what's going on with this. I want to be able to see it.
Yeah.
And like, because the way you're filming this, it's destroying the narrative for me.
Yeah.
But that again was just me. Everyone can see stuff differently. But
yeah, some people loved it.
I don't know. I'm like, I just want to see the movie.
Why. Same. But I will say, End of Violent Nature is definitely one to be on the lookout for. It'll be on Shudder probably in a couple of months.
Go ahead.
But it's in theaters right now. But Matt, what about you?
Yes. Well, to kind of go along with like all of this, and it's going to be a little ranty time. I saw.
Oh, finally, someone else can do that. Great.
You saw Furiosa?
I saw Furiosa, And
I want to see Furiosa.
What?
I want to see Furiosa.
It's worth seeing. I will say that it is worth seeing, but like, I don't know. It's crazy to see all the love for this movie, and I think people are just blinded by it, and because it's good. So for people who might be, I guess, living under a rock, Furiosa is about the character Furiosa from Fury Road, and it's supposed to be about her kind of story. At least I think the title is her name, so it should be about her. But like talking about Skinamarink, like Matt was talking about, where now the camera's not like stuffed in the sandbox or stuffed in a car. But all the good bits of the movie are just outside of the camera. And it just like it. I think what I heard is that he kind of wrote, like he had written it because he had written a whole bunch of stuff before Fury Road to kind of give him the idea of what he wanted Fury Road to be. So that might have been like, maybe he should have looked at it again, because he clearly wanted to, in Fury Road, make Furiosa a badass. So in his mind, she was always a badass. So when you watch this movie, she never isn't a badass, which is fine. But after a while, you're kind of like, okay, well, then what was the point of this? Because I need to see something. And like right from the start, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but like right from the start, as a little kid, she's a badass, which is great. That's super cool. But like, there's no growth for her. She just always is. And then there is a scene where she could get growth. And instead of showing us that growth, they just cut to her being really good again. And you're like, well, what the heck? Now, Anna Taylor-Joy, she's great. I mean, like, I'm a mixed bag on her, but like in this, she does pretty good. And so she's great. So anyway, so she's in the movie. Chris Hemsworth is amazing, and like the movie should have been about him, and it sort of is. But again, we're not getting everything, and some of the like stuff people are loving is like really obvious stuff, and no spoiler in any of this because I think it's all in the trailer. At the beginning of the movie, he's in us like white, like I don't know, it's like a shower curtain thing, and it's all white, and then slowly as the movie goes, it starts getting more red, and that's when he starts getting crazier, and you're like, oh wow, this is really deep, and people are loving it. But I'm like, that was like the most obvious like
metaphor ever.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, did he just come up with this idea to make his white cloth turn darker when he's getting more evil? Oh my god, this is the newest thing I've ever seen.
Couldn't be any more on the nose if he just like
yes, exactly.
Did he
could be any more on the nose if he
mustache?
just like put something and wrote bad guy across it.
No,
right?
but
Yeah,
did he
that's
twiddle
it.
his mustache?
He writes like bad guy and then starts twirling his mustache.
Yes.
Maybe gets one of those like meh.
Yeah.
See?
He does not twirl his mustache.
I'm going after Furiosa, see?
Well,
So-
see?
So basically, what you're saying is that the guy who was it again? Rodriguez, right? He did the movie, right?
No, this was
George Miller did. Yeah. George Miller's done all the Mad Max movies.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Miller basically doesn't know how to write a woman.
Well, actually, it is kind of funny. Like, so.
Or the executives kind of butted in and be like, no, that's not how you do it.
Yeah, I'm not. What I'll say is like Fury Road, he does a great job of.
Yes, I love the women in Fury Road. That's why I'm confused. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, I think again, like I think for that, I really what I think happened is because he wrote all of this to make Fury Road, is that he already had in his mindset a certain way that she was going to be, so he didn't really change it because, and I don't want to spoil it, but it a lot of like what you just said is like stuff that would have been awesome to see, but we don't see it, and we don't see what he is planning, or like how see her growth in that aspect. I just, like,
I mean, does he have in mind to have another Furiosa film before the Fury Road?
well, I guess he's talking. There is talks of another movies. But as of this week, it's been like up in the air because I guess the box office isn't as magical as they think it's supposed to be.
It's fucking expensive going to the movies.
I know.
I mean, what do they expect? I haven't been to the movies in almost 6 months.
Yeah,
because it's fucking expensive. Usually, if
yeah.
there's a movie that's already out, like in the state, I just ask my husband, like, "Hey, is it out and on our special website?"
Yeah.
And if it is, then we just get it there.
Special website. Well, hold on. Let me put on my pirate gear, hun.
Yes.
Got to put on my my overcoat and special hat and get in there.
We'll grab our taxidermed parrot.
So like, yeah, I think there's plans for more. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But George Miller said he has another one written that's called The Wasteland, and that'll be a Mad Max featured one that takes place after Fury Road.
Yeah. So
okay.
You know what I want out of this series?
What do you want out of this series?
Do you remember in Fury Road, there was like that one character, like they never, he was on screen for maybe like 15 seconds, maybe a minute at most. They didn't, I don't think they even gave him a name, but he was there. He was like next to the main bad guy, and he was like that.
Are you talking about the
little deformed guy in that weird chair?
Yes.
No, I'm talking about the little deformed guy that they just had there in the background. He just is like this little weird chair. I want him to have his own movie. I want to know what the hell happened.
Well, he is not in this one.
Sorry, you just throw stuff at that. Like you just throw things like that at me, and I'm like, well, what? How? Who is he? What? How did this happen? Like, where did he come from?
That
you just put it there and not talk about
it. Which is I love Miller for that, and the Mad Max movies for that is like he gives you such weird, and he does it in Furiosa in spots where he gives you such weirdness and he doesn't explain it. And like I don't want him to do that like in this movie, but there's enough big set piece scenes that we don't see that it was kind of frustrating. So
right.
And like I will say a couple of things also, and then I'll be done, is there's a little kid version of Furiosa, and apparently I have not substantiated this, so I don't quote me on it, but I can verify that they did something to her mouth to make her look like Anna Taylor-Joy, and that was super weird. But the rumor is that it was AI that did that, so I'm on defense on that one. And then they also like tweaked Anna Taylor-Joy's voice to make her sound like Charlize Theron.
No, what?
Yeah, not all the time, but there's a couple parts where she says some stuff that, because I just watched Fury Road, that are like identical. Which at first I was like, oh, that's cool, and then I started like thinking about it. I'm like, oh wait, I think they messed with her voice, or they just like dubbed in somebody else's voice. But anyway. It's a thing. Talking about feeling the time of in a violent place or whatever that movie's called. You do feel in this one too, which is unfortunate after watching Fury Road, and you're like, I could watch this movie for 5 hours. Furiosa, you're kind of like at a couple parts. I was just like, I'm like, well, I guess I could go to the bathroom, I can get a drink, and then I'll come back, and the movie's still doing this thing, and I'm like, I can stretch out in my chair, and I didn't miss anything. So that's it for me.
And Vitlame, what about you?
No movies, just like I rented. But I did finish, and if you guys haven't watched this yet, you need to get on it because this is amazing. Season 3 of Clarkson's Farm.
Oh shit! Is he even more of a dick this time?
Yes.
Fuck yeah! All right, I'm down.
It's so good. It was like immediately. I heard of this from my tattoo artist when I was getting my tattoo, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I've been like busy watching Clarkson's Farm," and I'm like, "Isn't it amazing?" And she just looked at me. You didn't know? Season 3 just dropped, and I was like, "Oh shit! I need to watch this."
Stop doing this tattoo right now and let me get into the TV.
almost like asked her to stop and like, oh, just bring me the laptop and I'll watch it while you're doing this to me. But
man, I've said that to my wife a ton of times.
But if you guys don't know what this is about the TV host Jeremy Clarkson, who used to be on Top Gear. And he owns a big ass land, like way up in, I don't know, is it north or south of England? I'm not sure. It has Shire in it or something like that. Like some English word that you can't pronounce, which really bugs the fuck out of me. And he thought initially that, it was, there used to be a guy who used to tend to his farm, and then he had to quit. And then Clarkson was like, I'll just do it myself. How hard can it be? And this is basically a really good lesson in farming is fucking hard. and you get a really good insight in like how farming in England works, because there's a whole lot of bureaucracy in there.
Jeez.
And there are just so many things where like Jeremy wants to do things, but then one of his advisors, he just looks at him and is like, no, you can't do that. And Jeremy just looks at him and is like, why not? Because there are regulations, man. And then he just gets all pouty and like, but I want to do that stuff. Like if you need like a revision, like in season 1, he realized that he needed to buy a tractor. But his advisor told him, like, don't buy a new tractor because new tractors are fucking expensive. So what you have to do, you have to buy a used one. And Jeremy was like, okay, fine. And then he went to like a sale, like a market kind of thing for used tractors. And he looked at all of them and he was like, those things are rubbish. I'll just get my own. And he ordered a Lamborghini tractor.
Of course.
all the way from Germany. And it's a huge fucking thing that doesn't fit anywhere. And all of the instructions are in German. And he doesn't speak a lick of German. So it was a really fun day just to watch him try to navigate on his new tractor. And he couldn't do shit. And his friend, who is a farmer, like a kid who's like younger than me, has his own farm and everything. He's just like, the fuck, man? Why are you here? Why are you making my life miserable?
Oh, that's amazing.
Why are you making a joke of my profession?
Yes. But the thing is, you can, like, even though he is bumbling about and stumbling and he's doing so many mistakes, he actually does say in the show, and I believe him, like he looks at like directing the camera, I'm like, I know this is hard, this is probably gonna bankrupt me, but I fucking love this. And he just really, you can just see the enthusiasm, like how much he has for this, and he's like, I really want to make this work, this is really fun, this is like giving me new purpose.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's so cute, like in this season he decides to get pigs.
Aww.
It's just like, have you seen piglets? They're so cute.
They can turn nasty.
Like my voice is gonna turn up an octave or two when I keep speaking about this. So maybe not listening. No, don't listen to this podcast while wearing headphones. But it's so cute. But then, of course, he realizes that like having animals, like raising animals in a farm, is hard as hell. And one episode was really difficult because there were so many piglets dying. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Aww.
And but like it's a way of life. He got a really tough lesson there. And I just love this show. You learn so much. You just follow him, and just it's so wholesome. It's really wholesome. You get a really good feeling after you're watching this. You're laughing your ass off because he's such an idiot. But at the same time, you get such a good education from this. And also you just feel really good afterwards. You're like, you know what? My life's not that bad. This is great.
Yeah.
Could
be worse. It could.
Yeah, it could be worse. I then also finished on Netflix Bodkin.
Oh yeah, how was that?
I really enjoyed it.
It looks really cool.
It's about I can't for the life of me I can't remember the name of the actor who is in who stars in this, but he was in The Last Man on Earth.
Yeah,
that's Will Forte.
What?
Will Forte.
No, that can't be his name.
Yes. It is.
No, I refuse to believe that. He's too fucking whiny for that name.
It's Will Forte.
No, give that name to Will Arnett.
Want to know what his real name is? Do you want to know what his real name is?
What?
Orville Willis Forte the Fourth.
Is that better?
Yes, that's much better.
Oh,
okay, I'm just gonna call him Orville now. But yeah, he stars in this, and he plays like an American podcaster who has like been doing like kind of like a true crime mysteries or something like that. And he travels all the way to a small town in Ireland called Bodkin to investigate the disappearances of 3 people that disappeared during Samhain, like 30 years ago or something. And with him is an Irish investigative journalist who is a bitch. Holy crap, she's so unlikable, but I love her. Like, she's supposed to be a bitch, like a total fucking bitch, and so unlikable, but at the same time, like, yeah, you need this kind of people. You love them. and like an apprentice, like a podcaster apprentice who really wants to like impress the Irish journalist, but fails every single time because he's kind of like almost brown nosing, but failing also at that because he's super socially awkward. So the 3 of them, they are just wandering around this small Irish town, and then as much as they like kind of dig up about the past, they realize that this town is hiding a much bigger secret than they didn't know.
Huh.
So it's like a kind of like a murder mystery-ish, but like it's more intriguing, and you get to see like into the lives of Irish people, which at one point I really hope it's not true, because it really puts them in a really bad light. Because there's this one scene, and it's not gonna spoil you or anything like that. There's this one scene where they attend a funeral of an Irish man, but like it's kind of like a wake, but the body is just inside the house.
Yeah,
and people are just drinking around the body.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, no, I hope not. And they just like, yeah, this is tradition. I'm like, please don't let it be tradition, because this really hammers down the Irish stereotype that you guys are fucking drunkards all the time. It's like it really hammers it down. Please don't let it be traditional. They were like, people were getting wasted. I saw children there drinking, and I'm like, oh my god, guys.
I can confirm.
So I'm on a website right now called Irish Urns, and it says the Irish Wake, Ireland's most enduring tradition.
Oh no.
And it says here that the feel and tone of an Irish wake can be both hearteningly mournful and joyously commemorative, sometimes simultaneously. It is not just an opportunity to grieve and process the pain of loss, but also to celebrate and honor the gift of life. This is why alcohol and music, both significant staples of Irish culture, are often heavily featured at a wake. This unique mixture of melancholy and mirth is partly why the Irish wake is so famous world over. Such an atmosphere is especially likely if the deceased or elderly was ill for a long period of time.
Oh no, guys, Ireland, we need to talk.
It's a great,
Can
it's a fine way to grieve.
Can I offer you like counseling or something? I don't want to turn you to the AA because the AA suck, but yeah. This is not good. I mean, like, what we do after, like, at a funeral, like, we go to the funeral.
There's a picture here with a bunch of Irish men sitting around a coffin.
Yes.
And there's beer bottles on the coffin and candles.
Yes, it was like that in the show, except like the bottom, like the upper part where you can see the face of the deceased. It was open.
Yeah, here it's closed, but there's just beer bottles on the coffin.
Yeah, can you just imagine, like, if someone had like anger issues while drinking in the wake? not lying, because that actually happened in the show.
It happens.
Yeah, but I mean, by the time it seems like most of them are like super, super drunk, they're going to forget most of what happened anyway the next day.
But I don't know. Okay, this is a weird ass tradition, but yeah.
Hey, don't judge people's traditions.
Hey, I have Irish roots. I can do that.
Hey, you know what? Irish people struggled for a long time, but let them get drunk. Just saying.
I mean, it's 2024. They can do other things. But it is a good show. I recommend checking it. Because like after each episode, you kind of want to see where it will take you and what kind of mystery, what this mystery will be in the end, and you'll be surprised.
Yeah, I've been intrigued by checking it out. So no, it sounds really good. Besides the horrible Irish tradition, apparently. And by the way, that's Bentley's opinion. That's not the opinion of the miss. Just gonna put that out there.
Fine, just come after me, man. Come on, bro.
Come on, bro.
And Matt, what about you?
So yeah, for me, movie-wise, I haven't really seen much. Still trying to get that whole life between like son and going to a movie theater figured out.
Yeah.
But
apparently,
I did recently watch.
I was going to say I did see a TikTok where someone said a person brought like a 2-year-old baby to see In a Violent Nature. So I'm joking.
I was as well. I can't put it past that actually happening. But like, the world's weird. So
anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Matt. I just had to. So what was I going to say? I watched Late Night with the Devil. I did that for nice.
And
I liked it. I liked it for the most part. There were some obvious plot holes in it, but if you kind of like just don't think about it, it's still a really interesting watch.
And just cut the last 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't like those last 15 minutes, Brandenburg.
The ending that they were. So yeah, Late Night with the Devil. I thought it was, like I said, I thought it was good. That the ending that seemed like they tacked on was kind of unnecessary. It would have been better if they left it where when and not again. Should I even give that away? Because I don't know if everybody's seen this yet that wants to see it.
Yeah, I don't know either. We can you can be very vague because I know what you're talking about. There's a station break.
Okay, yeah. So like a thing happens where you think it's supposed to be the end because it's like, the thing drawing up to actually occurs. And then after that, there's just all this other weird shit that feels like with the amount of exposition they gave you in the beginning of the film, they could have put this in there and it would have tied it up nicely.
Yeah.
100%.
But other than that, I did like the movie. The acting from the main actor in the movie was fantastic. He did the late night show host like perfectly.
Definitely.
I think the only other thing for me that kind of like I wish they would have done it slightly differently is and I know this is probably like a big thing that's just like, well, this is exactly the entire movie, but the way they delivered the film in general, like this whole, it was a found footage type thing where it's like, oh, this was a broadcast that was on the air, but we took it off, and now we're doing a documentary so we can show you that broadcast again. It's fine, but then having like all this behind the scenes shots between commercial breaks is really freaking weird for something like that. Like,
oh my God, you're like reading my mind.
Yeah, like I just, if it was just shown as a straight up like, you know, this was the actual episode and none of that behind the scenes stuff was in there, it would have been a little bit more effective. But I get why the behind the scenes stuff was there, like to drive home, like he needs this to be a win for him.
Yeah.
But I feel like there would have been a better way to go about doing it.
Yeah. I won't reiterate everything at my thoughts, but I agree completely. And like the way those behind the scenes stuff was shot felt very much like they knew they were getting, like people were filming them, which then led you to be like, well, why are they talking about this stuff if they know there's a camera on them? It's like, if you're going to do that, have the camera be focused on something else. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Or have it just be like from a CCT camera, like a security camera that was like in that room in a corner of a wall somewhere.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Or like they forgot their mics were on, and so like the camera is still focused on the stage, but we're hearing them talk off camera. That would have played more into like, oh, they didn't even realize this was happening, and we're getting this. But instead it just felt like, oh, we're filming you, and go ahead.
Yeah, you could have easily done that. Yeah, exactly. Like they could have easily done that. And it could have even just been a black screen, but they show like the audio graph of like them talking, like the peaks and valleys of the conversation.
Yeah.
Like it could have drove home more the idea of like, well, this is the information we have when there was no camera on, so this is all you get to see, you know?
Yes. That would have been awesome.
But other than that, I liked the idea. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that I think it was called the WUHF TV special, like Halloween special, that film that they did where it was like an old 80s like news broadcast. Like, yeah. I enjoy that, except the WHF thing I really enjoy. The only problem is like they crammed a little too many of the fake commercials into it sometimes.
Yeah.
But it was still a cute novelty. And that was the other thing I had about Late Night with the Devil. I was like, during a late night show, I'm like, do they take this many commercial breaks?
Right.
It's been a while since I watched late night TV, but
just another commercial, quick.
Yeah.
But
so,
no,
as far as reading goes, I'm not really reading anything. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like I thought it was quite an enjoyable movie myself. So I was just going to chime in there. But you can finish up what you're saying.
I was just going to say, as far as reading goes, I'm not really reading anything horror right now. I have a new project that I'm working on. It's going to be my first book that's not horror. This one I'm writing for my grandfather, who, and if you've read The Vast, I do allude to that a couple of times, that my grandfather was more of my real dad than my actual dad was, because he taught me a lot of things. And he was a big fisherman. He always took me out fishing. So The Old Man in the Sea is like one of my favorite books of all time, and that book reminds him every time I read it. So I'm kind of using that as a reference material for the new book that I'm working on that I called The Old Man and His River.
Nice.
So it's like an homage to both of like these two things that are important to me in my life.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
That's awesome.
Thanks. But that does it for me meat-wise, other than, you know, watching my kid run, fall, and smash things like.
Well, should we dive into talking about The Vast?
Let's do it.
All right, it is time for the
try.
boss.
So I think if you could just real basic give people listeners kind of like the elevator pitch for the Vast, Matt.
Okay. Well, most people elevator pitches, you got to go like, oh, it's this with that. I would think of like the Vast is a mix between Silent Hill 4: The Room and What Dreams May Come.
Yeah, I was going to say I got a huge The Room vibe from the Vast.
Yeah,
That's Silent Hill for The Room.
Yeah, I mean, like if you've ever played that game and then you read the book, the layout of the apartment is very similar to that from the video game, and I did that on purpose.
Nice. Yeah, I have not played that game. So.
Me neither.
But I did get a lot of what
the
dreams.
hell is wrong with the two of you?
I don't know.
I'm just now dipping my foot into video games again. Come on, I don't have as much time. I need to write stuff.
Well, I think we all do that, Villa May.
Oh, shut up, Matt.
I knew it. I knew she didn't like me.
That was the whole point of this. We got you.
This is blackmail evidence now.
It took how many episodes, but it finally came out.
Are you kidding me? Okay. My husband, he's like, ever since I started playing Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm still am, by the way, I haven't gotten from the clutches, and I don't care. I'm happily being submerged by it or consumed by it. And every single time he just tells me, like, have you tried their other games? And I'm like, you mean from Larian? He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to try them. Once I get out of my Baldur's Gate 3 hyperfixation, which will take a while. So take a line.
Take a line.
Take a line.
So yeah, even though like he has been like, I tried Fallout 4 after finishing the Fallout series. I tried playing that on the PlayStation 5, and I realized that I cannot handle the shooting system because I'm not built for shooting games.
Fair enough.
Like
so, yes, I'm definitely more built for turn-based games.
Okay.
Or platform games. That's for me because my hand-to-eye coordination does not match. So no, I probably wouldn't be able to play Silent Hill. I would definitely watch someone. I would definitely watch someone else play it though, because I like doing that from time to time.
Fair.
Okay. Well, if you find time away from your writing to go on YouTube, you can look up a video of somebody playing it, and then you'll see the apartment layout.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
I will, Matt. Just to please you.
And then everything you read my book will make so much more sense then, because you'll know how the apartment looks.
I mean, everything else made pretty much sense. So.
But no. The thing that is the apartment's the most important thing in the book that has to make sense.
All right then, I guess.
Yeah, because you never played it, like you don't get all the
Can we just move forward
details. Now? I'm never going to be allowed back on here again, and if I am,
you will be allowed once I'm finished the game.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, I've never played it either, but I figured out the apartment pretty well, I think.
I'm surprised you're not getting as much flack as I am.
I was just keeping quiet.
This is a gender thing, isn't it?
No. To be fair, you were louder first.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance
to be first, and I'm crawling down his throat.
And to be fair, I actually played the game, so
I just didn't get a chance to say I have not played it. I haven't played any of the Silent Hill games.
You're smart.
Eddie? Now I'm pissed at you, man.
I have no excuse other than I just don't have. I think I have a Nintendo Switch, and then I have like the old Sega and the old Super Nintendo, like those little mini systems. But I had a
you don't have anything that actually plays those games then.
No. It's just like I just don't have, like, I had a PlayStation 2 for a while. I honestly have no idea where it is now. But even then I didn't play any of the Silent Hill games. So I just look at it when everyone talks about it, I'm like, oh, those seem cool, and then I just didn't. But anyway, I like the apartment.
Now you can have an idea for a new horror book. It's called "There's a PS2 in My Apartment Wall."
I mean, like, there could be. Honestly, I'm like, I don't know what I did with that. That's a weird. I got it weirdly too. So that's a whole other story.
Weirdly too.
The story's just writing itself at this
in the
point.
woods one day, and this old man in a cloak gave me this PS2.
Here, boy. And I was like, oh, thank you, sir.
Here you are.
Typically, there's always like
game console of all time.
You want to come with me and play it? Sure, old man, I'm with you.
Don't feed it after midnight, and don't forget where you put it.
Don't feed it. Maybe that's what I did. I did have a. Never mind.
Okay.
Crazy times. Let me just tell you, crazy times.
I mean, to live in your shoes, I could only imagine.
It's an adventure every day. Even for me, I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but something will. And I just find a weird hole in my yard. Anyway, yes, I do. I have a weird hole, and I'm looking at it. Like, I don't know where it came from, and it's really deep.
You're looking at it right now?
I am. It's right outside my window, and like, I try to put something in it just to like let people know not to walk into the hole. I don't know. I honestly have no idea where it came from, and it, like, I almost stuck my hand in there, and then I was like, I don't know, this could be bad. So I stuck a stick in there, and I was like, man, the stick keeps going. And so then I just put like lawn clippings in there, and it still just keeps getting. So anyway, that's not what we're here for.
I want to take a second just to thank the three of you, because this is probably the most effective way I've ever sold a book in my entire life.
I mean, we aim to please.
yes, we do.
I mean, goddamn, I wish I could be on every other week. I really do.
We like to take the long way around to get back to the book, and so like we just kind of circle around it.
I mean, you are the poop man, so yeah.
And apparently Matt's still living up the cipher too, so there's that.
The poop man. I'm not the poop man.
Yes, you are, Matt.
It's okay.
You are Matt. You are our poop goblin, and we accept you.
Yes.
I will say I have not used the hole for poops because it is out front, and I don't want people to see me poops in there. Anyway, the vast. So
Yeah, I think we just lost everyone now.
Oh, God, my head hurts so much.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. I'm good. I swear. I'm not the poop man. I just have weird poops. Okay.
You're just making it worse, man.
Well, guys, it's been great. I think I hear my mom calling me.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. That last bit really got me good.
So
Oh, yeah.
So in your intro, I'm good. In your introduction, you do kind of lay out the story. So you've been working on it for a while, right?
It's yeah, it's taken me about a year to write. It's been even longer trying to get all the thoughts together in a sense where I could tackle it without it becoming an overwhelming issue.
Yeah,
put it that way.
that makes sense. Because, like, I guess we can.
So yeah, it's been some time.
Yeah. So for listeners, at first, this came out just like a week ago. I guess when this airs, it'll be like a week, 2 weeks. When did this come out?
Yeah. It was the 24th of May.
There we go. So yeah, doing my math, that it's about like a week, 2 weeks. So anyway, for listeners, The Vast, we are dealing with, it's Mark, right? It's Mark.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, my brain is all over the place. All right, so Mark wakes up in an apartment that is based off of a Silent Hill game, and I'm giving very basic because it is brand new, but he wakes up and he's got to he's been in this apartment many times before, and the very basic explanation is he needs to get out of it, and there's certain things that happen. There's ghosts that we get references to that show up at some point. There's inky goop that shows up, and he's kind of reliving past, I'm going to say, traumas. Again, trying not to spoil everything about it, but there's certain events in his life, and he's kind of got to face them to, he assumes, and we assume, to get out of this apartment. Did I do a good job with that? That's a pretty basic explanation without spoiling.
Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah.
I was like, it's always like, especially like recently, we've had a lot of writers on and they got brand new books, and I'm always like, oh, I don't want to say everything, even though we just read it. But like, I also don't want to make it sound goofy. So it's a thin line.
I mean, if you want, like, I'm okay with putting some spoilers out there if you want, because I feel like, to me at least, this is one of those books that even if you know going into it, it's going to hit you in your own way. Yeah. You know, depending on what kind of things you've dealt with in life. So
yeah,
I'm okay with like talking about whatever with it.
Okay, so we could do some slight spoiler stuff throughout.
Sure.
You know, I get, like, for listeners too, like, this book deals a lot with like your depression, and different traumas that have happened to our character. But for anyone, you've all dealt with traumas, and you all dealt with depression at some point, or are still dealing with it. And this book really explores it, which I like. I can imagine writing it was probably either really tough or really cathartic.
It was very, very difficult. Especially the section, like I believe it was in the book, he goes through paintings, are these portals of that put him to different points of his life where he's tackling some of the more difficult things that happened to him. The last painting in particular, for me, that was the hardest part for me to write. That took months to complete that part.
I can say I can't imagine.
It was just,
it's hard.
Yeah, it was. There was many times I thought I was going to cry so much that I was going to cry into my keyboard and short out my computer. Like it was hard.
Jeez.
Yeah, that there was definitely like I can that would be a tough thing to cover in this, and just even some of the other things, because I think it's 4 paintings, that he kind of goes through, and each of them are really tough things to kind of to look at. And what I'll say is you do a really good job of kind of not only giving us his dealings with it, but kind of us facing like our own, because I'm sure everyone's had either different traumas or the same traumas to kind of like process. And so like definitely as I was going through it, I was just like, oh man, I gotta think about some things.
Oh,
yeah.
But yeah, which I think is like a great like way. I'm trying to think of the word. Like the writing of that and making us actually kind of think about ourselves. I think there's such like a good style in that where you're as the reader, like, you know, sometimes it can be, we're talking about the different movies and books we've read, and like sometimes you can just sit there and be like, oh, that's that character dealing with that, and I'm the person reading it. But there's like another level, like for certain books, that when you read it and it's the writer, the way the writer does it is getting you to look back at yourself. Like we had kind of, I think you mentioned before recording, we had Laurel Hightower on talking about Day of the Door, and that definitely made me face some more personal kind of things. And that's like looking at yours was similar aspect, which is so funny that we've had like two, except we had a week in between, but like two books that made you really kind of like look at stuff, which I think is a sign of good writing. So that was cool. So
you're right about that.
Oh, sorry, what?
I was just thinking of our last book discussion. I was like, both their last book discussions were like books on heavy reflective topics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What the heck?
what the heck?
Why are we doing this?
Because we're
I'm
masochists.
bringing all these deep, meaningful books when I want to talk about my
figured it
hole.
out?
Yeah, I just want to talk about my hole. Oh, no. But so like why, to go back to Silent Hill, like why did you kind of pick that? Why did you go with that kind of apartment, and why did that game kind of bring you into this?
So that game in particular means like it means a lot to me in the sense of like timing. I would put it that way. Like I was going through a very tough moment in my life when that game came out, and when I was playing it, it gave me that like, you know, well, all Silent Hill games do that. It gives you that feeling of isolation, and I found myself more like, because the idea of that game is like you're trapped in this apartment, and like you have to solve all these murders that are going on in order to figure out like why you're here, what's the meaning of everything. Like, you know, like the name Walter Sullivan comes up a lot, you know, and you're trying to figure out who this person is, blah, 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 blah. During that time where I was going through like that really heavy thing in my life, I kept thinking about how like the room itself is a really good representation of the space in your head that you go to when you're either having a depressive episode or you're, you know, locking yourself away from others and you just don't want to talk about things.
Yeah.
And like, I just, the layout of the room and everything itself at that time also looked very similar to the apartment I had just moved into. So, I mean, like that added like a whole extra creepy factor to the whole thing. But like that place and that game and like those moments, like they stuck with me. And even back then, when I wasn't even contemplating trying to write things at all, I had this idea for this sort of a book in my head at that time. And, you know, some of the stuff I talk about in this book hadn't even happened to me yet at that moment in my life. So it was just kind of like this thing that's been in the back of my head, and it's just had more and more and more pile into it.
Yeah.
And that room became that space in my head where I kept all these things. And I got to that point where I wanted to try and figure out a way to write myself in and out of it to try and come to a better terms with the things that I dealt with.
Nice. Yeah. I having not played the game, but like I can see that like having that, because like I don't know if May or Rich, if you guys have that, but I definitely have a place in my brain that I visit a lot. And so like even having not played that game, but like knowing what that apartment is, like you could feel it and you could understand it. And I think that was like I really like that sort of was like, I'm gonna say like home base for the story.
Right.
I think that was like a really cool concept.
Thank you.
No problem. So the paintings were new for this go round, correct?
Yes.
Like, okay. Yeah, I was kind of like thinking about it because like you make reference to him being there obviously multiple times, and so it's just kind of which to go back to conversations we've had earlier in this podcast is like you did a good job of giving us that, like, clearly he's been here before, he's talked to this person on the phone, but we don't need to see it. And I think that again is a good sign of things, is like you built it, the story enough around it where we're like, okay, this, like, I can see him coming here and I can see this happening in this conversation, because the voice of that character on the phone is not like physical voice, but like the voice for us is there's a familiarity between the two of them. And so I think that was like it gave us exactly what I was looking for in Furiosa, and what you were talking about for Skinamarink, where you were framing it and we know what's happening, but we don't need to like see all of it.
Yeah,
so
you didn't have to put the reader, make the reader ask, but why?
Yeah.
It like the storytelling was enough that the reader kind of understands what's happening from there and is willing to go forward with the story along with the character.
I'm glad I was able to do that. Well, it's one of those things, like, and you all right. It's one of those things where as you're going through something, to you, it feels like the way it should be.
Yeah.
But you have that moment where you're like, is this going to be the one thing that damns all of this to hell? Is because I didn't think of this, like, fleshing this out more, or I maybe I did more telling than showing in this part. Like, I had those worries this entire time. And I just kind of thought, like, while writing it, I'm like, there are things in this that if I told too much, if I showed much or told too much, you'd lose the whole idea of, like, this is more of a personal journey and not everything needs to be shown.
Yes. Yeah. It has to be ambiguous in places.
Yes.
Because this is not like, it can't be the reader's journey as well, but it is, like you've said, this is a personal journey of your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do really think you achieved that. Yeah. I did enjoy that.
No, I agree. I felt like we, as the reader, we experience the character's journey in a way that also makes us reflect on our own selves, viewing our own past as well. Like, I found myself going into that little space in my brain that I think we all have while reading this book, but like in a good way. It was like kind of cathartic just to go through the process with this character.
Yeah. And I think I'm hoping I'm not spoiling, but I think most of us who are dealing with any kind of mental illnesses, like Matt, I also have like depression. So right at the end of the story, you were hitting me with things that have been affecting me as well. And I did not expect that. And I cried like a baby.
Oh.
It's like, I didn't need therapy. This was good enough.
And that's one of the things, like, I'm very happy that I wrote this in the sense of, like, with each painting that we go through, and like the problem is presented and Mark's journey continues, and there's There is a little bit of a resolve at the end of each painting, but it's not enough where you could be like, oh, I'm completely happy with that now.
Yeah,
like if you were that person going through this whole thing. But I also kept it that way on purpose because that's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
that makes sense.
Like the happy ending's not always going to be there, or it's not going to be in the same light that you wish it would be.
No,
you're going to have to learn to just. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Continue.
I was going to say, it's like, and that's one of the things I've learned is like you have to kind of deal with the happy ending that you're dealt. It might not be what you wanted, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, and it's also not. It's also like this is just basically you can just think of it as like playing a video game. This is a level that you've reached, but it's not the end level. This is like you have to continue with the journey. Like you realize something, you got something, but you have to keep it going in order to achieve it.
Right.
Like fully.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm kind of keeping up with the video game references here, I'm learning.
You know what? Vilma, I rescind all comments that I made earlier about you and your video game prowess.
Thank you. You're allowed
it's
to
all
come
Matt's
back.
fault.
It's all my fault. Sorry, everybody.
You if I may, Matt.
Yeah.
You did say at the beginning in the introduction that this was basically based on what your journey is throughout this.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine how, and I hope I'm not entering, like when you enter the, was it the resort? When Mark enters the resort, I can imagine that chapter was really difficult to write.
The one where it's like the city with like a greenish tint to it.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the part that I mentioned was the hardest part to write. That was the one that took me months to write.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I believe it.
And like
yeah.
That part was like when my wife and I were trying to have a kid, I was coming up to like closer to the end of the book. Like the book originally was probably going to end before that part even came.
Oh.
And then we came through what happened, and I was like, well, I have to put this in.
Yeah.
Like I can't not be writing a book that's displaying to people like the things that I went through and dealt with and leave this out of it.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Which sounds awful to say, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Now, were those places like have you been to those places that you kind of visit, or are those around you, or were those?
Yeah, all of those places are based off of real places from my childhood.
Nice.
The place where I go to, where there's like a lighthouse and a little town and everything, that's like kind of like Cape Hatteras. It's like based off of that area a little bit. The city with green, like that hotel resort, that was literally the same. Like, and I think I mentioned in the story, like there was a place I used to go to with my family when I was a kid. It was like this beachside hotel resort. Like that is that place from my childhood. And like the open prairie was from when I was growing up. There was this little campground resort that you could have like a site that you'd pay like I guess they call it like a yearly fee or due or whatever you'd want to call it for like having a place that you would go to every summer, like almost like a what you call them timeshare. Yeah, kind of like that idea, but it's like for you can put a trailer on it and you can build on your spot and everything. Right in front of where our spot was this giant field where when they decided to mow it, people would play baseball. If you read the story, like judging from that, they didn't mow it very often because it was always like there was a ton of like wildflowers and really tall grass and everything. And there was like an exchange between me and my father in that field once, which is where that whole message came from that part.
Gotcha.
So yeah, they're all real places. Some of them I want to go back to, some of them I don't want to go back to, but yeah.
So and this is always the fun question for writers, because it's like that we for a lot of our stories we bleed on the page, our pasts and our thoughts and all that stuff, and there's always that kind of worry on who's gonna read it. So doing what you did with this book, have any people you might have referenced in the story, have they read this book, or is this stuff that maybe you've come out with that to them already? And so just that it's there's a lot of personal stuff in here, and I'm just wondering if people are
I'll tell you right now, I'm horrified to figure out who might get their hands on this book, because there are people with things that have happened that I have not spoken to since those things have happened. And you never know who's going to find the stuff, you never know who's going to tell who, but at the same time I didn't want to keep any of this inside anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's my right to be able to put it on a page if I please.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, I think it was important for you to get this out and put on the page at the same time as well. So,
yeah, it was.
Even if those people find out, fuck them.
Well, and it's the thing. I wouldn't even necessarily say fuck them.
Yeah.
Because dealing with one of the things in the book, there's a pretty heavy spot that deals with something that happened to me in my teenage years, and I would never say that it's something that you can fully ever forgive somebody for, but at the same time, I can also realize we were all stupid kids.
Yeah.
We all do stupid shit.
Yep.
And that person might reflect back and realize it was a bad thing, and they wish that it never happened. And I can't continue to hate them for it, because I also know we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that person was to happen to read the book and if they get mad about it or whatever, it's okay, well then to me that means you didn't grow yet. And I'm sorry for that. But I don't mean ill will towards anyone that I would have mentioned any of my problems in this book at. So
yeah.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I was also trying to be a little bit lighthearted with that too, but I mean, if this book causes someone to show growth or begin their own growth, I think that's a positive impact on anybody.
Absolutely. It's literally the whole part of the whole meaning behind the whole book is being able to figure out how to deal with the things that happened and become a better person out of it.
Yeah. And it's and that's a hard step. So
yeah.
Which you show. What I'll say is you show well, and it's I was saying, by us knowing that he's been here multiple times, it's we get that idea of this is it's not an easy step, but it's an important one, and it's awesome that he took those steps and was able to kind of confront and move to the next picture. So I thought that was great. And yeah, I think that you are looking at it in the best way, which is great, of that fear and or being happy that you got it out and them dealing with it their way. Because I've definitely there's now not the Willy Wonka story, but many other stories have dealt with things, and there's always that little bit where are people going to pick up, or are family going to pick up what I'm putting down? And how are they going to look at it a certain way? But so I always kind of find it fascinating when people, when writers kind of can go that deep and look at stuff. And so I always got to kind of see how that process goes. How did it feel finishing the book and getting this all out there?
It was kind of bittersweet. Like, I'm not gonna lie, because it did feel like there was a lift of, I like kind of stress, and like some of those worries that I had like felt like they were lifted. But like even writing it, I was self-aware. Like it, like toward the end of that part, toward the end of the book where he's confronted with the ghosts finally. The character even says, like, I can't promise you that I won't be back here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just that I was being self-aware because I'm like, I wanted to write this to help myself, but I also knew at the end of the adverse of it, I'm like, it's not going to be the end all be all. I'm going to be back in that room at some point.
Yeah.
It's just hopefully it's a shorter trip than before. You know? And it felt good to get some of that stuff off my chest, but it was that older realization of like, I will be back. It will happen again. There might even be other things, maybe worse things, that fill that room that I'll have to face later in my life. I never know. But I mean, typing the end, and that's something like as a reader, you never see that most of the time. That's just something like the writers do to put that final, like, we did it, guys. You know, like, we crossed that finish line. The end. You know,
the end.
Like writing that felt so damn good. And
I bet,
like, it's still, I still think about this thing, like, because there's some books that I'm finished and I was done with. And they were just like, you know, books that I wrote for fun. And it's not that I forget about them, but they're also just, they don't continue to live rent free in my head.
Right.
Like after finishing this, it's still there. And I don't think it ever won't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Vit LeMay or Rich, did you guys have any other questions?
Honestly, Matt, you were asking pretty much every question I was thinking of asking.
Yeah, same.
So I'm just sitting there like, damn it, Matt. Damn it, Matt. Damn it, Matt.
My bad.
It's okay. It's okay. Honestly,
stop doing such a good job, Matt.
Stop being so good. How dare you?
I'll go back to my hole.
I actually have one question. I hope that Matt didn't cover it. The ghosts in the story.
Yes.
Did you is it like referring to basically your own demons that lies in your head?
Yeah, they were that manifestation of that thought that a lot of people with depression have, that they come across once in a while, where they think, should I keep going on or should I end this?
Yeah.
That's the ghosts, essentially.
Yeah. Any reason why I decided to name them the ghosts?
Because I feel like I named them the ghosts because it's that feeling that's always there. You never can see it. So I kind of feel like that's like a specter. It's you can feel their presence, maybe, like you can maybe smell a memory, but you never see it.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
I honestly don't have any questions. I'm trying to think of some others, but
thanks, Matt.
Sorry. No, it's not a big deal. Honestly,
he even has a hole to look at, you know?
I do want to say that I think out of all the books of yours that, I mean, we've read a bunch for this podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like the ones where you go more serious, like Melancholia, are like really impactful. And I think this book was an important book for you to write, and I think it's been your most impactful to me as a reader.
Thank you. I do like writing the serious stuff, but I feel like I need to find a more I don't know, write a serious thing that's not so heavy. Because it would be nice to, like, you know, go into another world where there's meaning to it, but it doesn't take me forever to get through it. Because man, that was a tough year and a half.
I believe it.
That's why when I got out of it, I was like, you know, I'm done with horror for a little bit.
At least you got to write gore to offset it a little bit.
Yeah, I've been thinking about writing a sequel to that too. I'm not sure.
Right.
We'll see.
I mean, gore is a lot of fun. I thought that was a fun book.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a blast writing that one.
Well, I do have one question
That was-
for
that
you.
was very fun. Yeah.
Besides the Old Man and the River, do you have any other project and the middle grade one? Do you have any other projects up the pipeline that you're excited about, or are those your two focuses?
I mean, I've got I probably got 4 or 5 collab books working in the background right now. So there could be 2025 could be a year where you see my name paired with a bunch of other names on book covers. It's very possible. I guess it all just depends on how well we all chug along, because there's a lot of things that come up in life. But yeah, there's that, and as any writer knows, you say I'm going to work on this one thing, and then 500,000 other ideas pop up, and eventually you're like, well, that one sounds really good, and then you abandon everything. So like I can tell you like, oh, I'll have this book out here, but I don't know. I could throw it in the trash and start something completely different the next day. I have no idea.
Oh, seriously, man. I get that. I'm like working on something now, and like you said, I have like 5 other ideas that I'm like, oh, I should go to those, but I got to finish this one, and yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it even only takes like you come up with a cool title for something, and you're like, well, I mean, because like it was funny, like Rich, you mentioned gore, and like the other day I was like, Of Gods and Gore, that would be a great sequel title, and I'm like, oh, I should just write this now.
Oh, so true.
Yeah. So I mean, I can tell you the books that I have in mind of finishing, but there could be a surprise. Who knows?
Well, that's a good problem to have, honestly.
I agree.
So yeah,
mean, yes and no.
Yeah. I mean, at least it's ideas and not just sitting there going, I have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you though, it's been and Matt, I'm sure you can follow along with me on this one as well. Learning to do this around a child, is a continuously morphing affair of, oh, well, he seems to do this now. I can get my writing in it this time.
Okay.
That might last like a week. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, now he doesn't want to nap at all of a sudden. Now what do I do?
100%.
And and that contributed to it taking probably 1.5 years to write the Vast itself, because it's just like, how do I do this with this kid? And like some of it was done on a phone with him sleeping on me.
Yep.
Like I tried to figure out any way I could, but then also with how much it took, it's just, I started getting to that point where I'm like, I want to do it where it's just more traditional. I don't want to write on a phone. I want to be on my computer. So if that means I get 20 minutes, I get 20 minutes,
Yeah. Like, that's how, the last, how I've had to is just like 15-minute spurts, or I would like when we had Girl Scouts, I would be in the parking lot writing, and one time the cops came up to me. It was so crazy. I'm like,
sir, are you writing and driving right now?
I was like sitting because I drive a truck, and so I would sit in the back and just and I would do it on the laptop. I would just make sure it was charged and then just go. And the nice thing is no distractions, because it's not like I was on Wi-Fi or anything.
Right.
But then like it would get dark, and so I think I had my little light on or something, and like these people came up. Like first somebody like spotlighted me, and I was just like, hi. And then like a couple minutes later, cops came up and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just writing. I'm waiting for the Girl Scouts to be done, which is not the proper thing to say. They're like, well, like, why? Why? And I was like, oh, because my daughter's here. And they're like, okay, well, we just got word that some guy's wandering around. I'm like, well, I haven't seen anybody. So like, yeah.
I love the idea that you kept the important part that would keep you from getting arrested out till like later.
Yep.
Like, oh, I'm waiting for my daughter to get done. You're like, oh, I'm waiting for the Girl Scouts to wrap up.
Yeah, that was not the smartest thing to say, but I figured it out. So
Hey, listen. Sometimes it's difficult to navigate conversations, Matt. You did the best you can. It might have made you look more suspicious, but you tried. And that's what we can commend you on doing.
Just imagine just seeing me hunched over in this like darkened truck typing, and it was like, this dude's gonna do something not right. So anyway, yes, I completely get it. Now, like, when they get a little bit older, it's a little bit easier, and then you're just like, all right, well, now I can find the time. But like, yeah, those first couple of years, you're just like, I got a couple minutes. I'm just gonna knock something out as fast as I can.
Right.
Yeah. But then yeah, they get older, and then they're like never around, and you're like, oh, I guess they're never around anymore.
Yeah, it's the part I'm not. I don't want that part to come anytime soon. I love the little dude, but
yeah,
I know that day's gonna come. It's like, Dad, you're gross. Get away from me.
Yeah, it's as long as you're like, yeah, I should say, like, it's a good balance. So they have their fun, and then they hang out, and those are the good times. And it's good that they're finding people, because you don't want to make them not meet people. So it's like, it's a good mix. But yeah,
right,
totally get it.
Well, I want to say thank you again for coming on, Matt.
I want to say thank you again for having me on. Villamay, I hope we can still be friends.
I think you might have to bribe her.
Would you like a copy of Silent Hill 4?
Sure. Why not?
I can only imagine how much that would cost to mail that to you.
Right.
I mean,
Oh, God.
aren't they all available on Steam?
I don't think so.
And the Silent Hill 2 HD that's, I think, on Steam is really, really bad.
Yeah. That's
So-
why they all go,
I
like, if you
will
go on
think
eBay
of
and look for
something,
Silent Hill
Matt.
games, they're... What's that?
I will think of something.
Well, you have the Silent Hill 2 remake coming out later this year.
There is one Silent Hill game on the PS5 right now, right?
That's not.
I mean-
well, so it kind of is, but it's more of its own thing than.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
like,
my husband has been playing it.
yeah, and that one's a bit different than a lot of the other Silent Hill stuff. We can talk about that outside the podcast.
Yeah.
But the one on PS5 is more of like an experimental type of Silent Hill title. That's a bit different than the others, but it was enjoyable.
Okay.
But Matt, where can listeners get in touch with you?
Oh, sorry. You say Matt, and I immediately think it's Brandenburg. I'm sorry.
Well, listen, where can listeners get in touch with you?
I'm on all the goddamn platforms. I don't remember much of my handles on what was it, Thread and Blue Sky. I'm on all of them.
All right.
I main like Facebook and Twitter mostly. Twitter, I'm at Matt Wildasin, Matt_Wildasin, and Matthew Wildasin on Facebook. Those are the two I mostly stick to.
All right, so you should
I don't have a
follow
website yet. I know I need to do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely get a website going.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
But seriously,
I'm tired
though,
of
follow
working.
Matt Wildasin, annoy him, buy his books. He's a great guy.
Also, buy his pre-made covers. He makes absolute
Yes,
amazing covers.
he makes pretty awesome covers too.
Oh yeah, well, hey, you guys are much better at this than I am. Thank you. I would have not even mentioned that I do covers like at all. Like, oh god,
And
I'm my own worst enemy. I swear to Christ.
and Brandenburg, where can the listeners get in touch with you?
Make sure you pick up The Vast. That just came out, and we talked about it all day.
Yes.
So pick that up. I am on Twitter at BrandenburgDM, and I have a website, matt-brandenburg.com.
Perfect. And Villamay, what about you?
Yeah, I'm basically on all social media, but I've most frequently go on Twitter at VitaMAS, And then I'm also on Instagram at things at and light, though they discovered my loophole, so I can't post anything again. It has something to do with my phone. It's a whole new shit, so I won't go further into it until I figure something out. But I also have a website, and it's vitaminmistauthor.com.
That sounds great. And you can follow me on Twitter with @IntoStaring. And this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.